Order for the Vacaville City Council agenda for special called meeting. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Stockton.
Here.
Councilmember Silva.
Here.
Councilmember Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Wiley.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sullivan.
Here.
And Mayor Rolette.
I'm here. If everyone could please stand with me for a moment of silence, and I will follow it with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we will move to item 3, which is public comment. Due to the special nature of this agenda item or this meeting, you can only do a public comment for the item number 4 now. There will not be just general public comment. So, Crystal, do we have anyone on the phone?
We have 10 attendees on the line. I have a caller ending in 211 with your hand up. I'll open your mic.
Hi, it's Alicia Minion. I'm commenting on the item, the strategic plan.
Yes, go ahead.
And yes, thank you. So I had some recommendations because a lot has happened and since we last met on the strategic plan, and I had some ideas for additional committees that could be formed that will help reach some of the goals. So one of the goals, goal 1, in terms of safety, specifically fire. I was listening to the LAFCO meeting back in October, and they had a consultant, and basically, the county doesn't have the manpower, the infrastructure, for their fire protection districts to really provide adequate fire services. And as we all learned during the extraordinary fire, it didn't help. Okay, so we had extraordinary fires through Pleasant Valley, English Hills, etc. And the consultant in October recommended that there be a committee be formed to address how to provide fire services throughout the county. I really think it impacts the city. And I'm hoping that as part of the strategic plan, that the city develop either their own fire, sort of like a risk mitigation committee to come up with ideas and how to prevent housing structures from catching fire. And so we have requirements in the code regarding construction adjacent to open space or in high-risk fire areas. And I noticed that the code allows the fire chief discretion to waive any of the requirements. So we really have no requirements. And I just thought that the city should participate with the Solano County's efforts to resolve and to mitigate fire risk. And that kind of corresponds to goal number 1 on the strategic plan. With regard to goal number 3, the housing for all, I noticed the City of Davis, they have a housing element committee. That committee is made up of 2 members of Planning Commission and other members of the community, and to provide feedback and to really help craft a housing element that's good for our residents. So I was recommending that. And then also along with that, an architectural committee who could be created to review the architectural character and design of new developments that are coming forward. Many cities have this, and they actually review site plans for any new building. And then with goal number 4, the fiscal sustainability of the city, I wanted to recommend that council move forward on the OPEB committee's recommendations, including to seek ways to improve the funding status of our pension and PARS.
Are you wrapping it up,
I'm done.
Alicia?
Yeah, I'm wrapping it up. Yeah, so pension
you're at
and
3
PARS,
minutes already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Next caller, please.
Ravante Robinson, I'll open your mic.
In the strategic plan, goal number 1 is to ensure public safety. And I believe that public safety should be reimagined in Vacaville. The needs and the expectations of the residents, they have not been being met, which is what is supposed to happen. Especially women. Recently, we've seen a lot of bad stuff happen, and basically, the needs, the expectations have not been being met. I strongly support Initiative 3A, the housing for all, because we definitely need more affordable housing. And I also want to say that any new programs that address mental health, homelessness, or substance abuse, I think that they should be done away from the police department separately, like their own types of things. The community facilities district revenue, it's not enough for all the new police staff that you need or think that you need. And I feel like instead of adding more police, we should be defunding. And police lawsuits, there's probably some that are going to come soon, and they are a threat to our local economy, which we want to strengthen. And that's what I wanted to say for today. Please think about that.
Thank you. Next caller.
Wendy Brecken, I'll open your mic.
Good evening. So I'm looking at maintaining effective and efficient services, which is goal 4, and specifically initiative 4A, ensuring fiscal sustainability. As you know, there was an advisory committee that studied the OPEB issues and made recommendations, and those recommendations should be followed up as part of the strategic plan to ensure sustainability. We have the state auditor who said that City of Vacaville's OPEB and pension costs or funding were high risk, and there's a map that shows how we compare to other cities. High risk is not a good place to be, especially, we're going through the pandemic. It'd be nice to get our house in order, so to speak. So, pensions, other cities have dealt with both OPEB and pensions in different ways to try to get out of, if not get out of debt, at least get to a more moderate place where we have less debt and can increase our credit rating and do more for our community. As part of the strategic plan, I think we should also be doing more of these task force or advisory committees so that to better engage the public, as well as to think up creative ideas for how to make Vacaville a better place. If you take a quick look at other cities, successful cities, they have a number of more advisory committees than we do, and anywhere from budget to arts to over housing or any number of things. I think a fire task force, as Alicia was talking about, would be helpful because we have evacuation route issues, as well as what can we do to ensure that we are not as at risk as we were during the LNU lightning complex fire. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller ending in 133, I'll open your mic.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Caller. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I was just calling to address just the current state of the city of Vacaville and this current state of everything that's going on. I would just like to know when we get some answers about when the schools are going to get reopened, when we're going to get basketball hoops back in our parks, when we're going to open the economy back up. I work at Lowe's. We've been open the entire time. No one's gotten sick. Walmart's been open. It's okay for our kids to go to Walmart, the factory stores.
Sir.
We take our kids,
Sir?
our family, all these people that are supposed to be.
Crystal, can you cut his mic, please? I apologize. I hope he can still hear us. This is a special called meeting. If you want to call in about those items, I would say call in during our regular meeting next Tuesday. This is just for the strategic plan. Sorry about that, sir. But call in next Tuesday at 6 p.m. and we'll get you on. Next caller, please.
I see no additional hands at this time.
I'm going to close public comment and move it over to our city manager. Mr. City Manager, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir. Thank you. Crystal, if I could have the next slide. All right. Well, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, and members of our community. Thank you for your attendance tonight. We're glad to be here. It's been a while since we first began talking about this subject. And it's a very important subject, and I'm glad that we are finally in front of our new council and talking about some very important things and how they affect the community. We are talking about the City Council strategic plan that was initiated last year. We have been working diligently on that, the next steps of that particular plan. And what we're here tonight to do is to discuss the next stage. And I'll get into a presentation here in just a moment, but I have enlisted the help of a facilitator that is helping us with our social justice focus group. And Ray has just really provided a lot of great services to me and our organization. And I thought that this would be a great opportunity to bring him in to help us with kind of this next step of visioning for the community. I really appreciate the community's comments about, the things that they raised. I think you'll see that as we go through the strategic plan tonight, and as you hang in there with us as we go forward with the implementation of all these different work programs and strategies, that you'll see that the city does do a lot of things to connect with the community, to get your feedback and input so that we can move forward in a purposeful direction and do some good things for the community. So just a real quick background about Ray. Ray is a leadership coach and leadership consultant. He has over 35 years of experience in leadership and management organizational development. His top strengths, and I've seen these all in our focus group, he defines the links between things, seeing alternative ways to proceed in given scenarios. He's very effective at building close relationships to achieve goals, being a skilled critical thinker, and being inspired of what could be looking into the future. So Ray is going to help us tonight. It's going to be kind of a tag team show between he and I, going back and forth with the presentation. I'm looking forward to it. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Ray Weaver.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing tonight? Just want to thank you for allowing me to come forward to help you with this as we start focusing in on our journey here. And Crystal, if you have those slides that we had, thank you. Just welcome to the strategic planning for the FY 20 and 2026. And what I'm going to ask everybody to consider out there is that consider this to be a living document. I'm glad everyone, I appreciate the 3 or 4 callers who called in and gave us input on what we should do and how we should go about doing it. And as Aaron said, as we start pulling this apart tonight, you'll see that it's there. And also at the end, we're going to be talking about things that we may want to modify, add, change, or correct to allow this to continue to be a living document. And what I always try to remind people about, when we talk about these strategic plans, they're just plans. That means that we can modify and change them, and they're agile because we work in an agile environment where things come up that were unexpected when we first initially start making plans. So in that, I want everybody to understand these are our plans, and that will be throughout the years is going to be tweaked. And if I'm not mistaken, Aaron and I had already spoke that they already have plans on going back again, maybe every 6 months, every year, just kind of seeing where we're at, what we need to tweak, what we need to change, what's working, and continually moving forward. And I want you to just consider, we're just talking about something as a plan of getting us an idea of where we want to be 5 years from now, where we want to be 5 years from now, and trying to put some ideas together to get us there. So that means that we're going to need every body in the community to be also understand they're part of this journey. The city council and the mayor are there to kind of give the strategic and the senior leadership that's needed to help us all focus and get there. But also it's going to take every member of Vacaville and every citizen of Vacaville and every system that operates at Vacaville, school systems, fire, police, chamber of commerce, all those to really make this all happen. So that's why it's part of a living document that is going to require everyone to kind of be a part of it. So if I can go to the next slide, Crystal, I appreciate it. So this is what we're kind of going to do today, just some introductions and welcomes. I think Aaron's already done that. I'm going to do a little thing about your why, and just so you can hear from your council. Then we're going to, Aaron's going to give a strategic plan overview. Then we're going to go into the facilitate discussion, and then try to figure out next steps, and then we'll turn it back over to the council for closing comments. Next slide, please. Just looking ahead, what I'm going to be using is kind of more of a coach approach, would mean that everyone here is brilliant. They know what they're doing. They're inspired, and they want to really serve the city of Vacaville. So all we're going to do is just try to kind of hold some space so we can have some crucial conversations, which I'll come back to in a minute. We're going to be using this virtual platform, so it's going to kind of be a little awkward a little bit, so that as we process through this, or how we can make this work virtual. Also, what we're going to try to use is what I call the 60, 75, 90 process, which means that if we need to take a break at 60 minutes, 75 minutes, 90 minutes, we'll take that break for 5 or 7 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever is needed. And I want everybody to be reminded, we're going to be kind of the 30,000 feet view in our conversation. So this is a 30,000 foot conversation. So in that, it may not have all the details everybody's out there listening for, but understand we're just right now having this big conversation on figuring, okay, where do we want to go? Who do we want to be? How do we want to get there over the next 5 years? And then we're going to have to kind of step back and use community input, as you heard, to kind of help us get there. We're really prospecting the future while we're also attending to the needs of the now. So you start, I'm just going to ask you to, as we go through and you'll see this plan, it is also some things that we know we have to face now, but they were already as part of the plan, some things that we were doing, that the city was doing, but also we have to look forward. We also have to look forward in the hopes that as we work through our current difficulties, we still are going to be better on the other end. And so if we don't strategic plan, when we get there, we'll kind of lose our way. So part of the strategic plan is for us to periodically pop up above the clouds, take a look, and make sure that we're still navigating in the right direction. And also what this is going to help us do is kind of help us start to have those, the start and continuation of crucial conversations. As many of you know, crucial conversations have three elements. They are, there's emotions, there's high stakes, and there's differences of opinions. And so even as you were listening today, you kind of heard that. So within that, we've got to have these crucial conversations in the midst of having to start with heart with each other, asking ourselves, what do I want for me? What do I want for others? What do I want for the relationships? And how do I need to behave, or how do I need to show up to get all three of those things that I want, so that we can move things forward and not get bogged down in sometime in our emotions, or sometime in just some of our fears. So we're just going to have that, be aware of that. And that's what we're hoping to do today, to have that kind of conversation with this plan. Next slide, please. And this is something I just want to remind everyone from the strategic standpoint. It's called a tri-model for leaderships. And if you notice that there's the leader connecting with the stakeholders and also operating in the system. And that leader has to hold that spot where they're being attentive and present with all three of those, but also understanding the geopolitics that surround everything, and also understand the ecosystem that feeds it. So in that, I just want you to kind of be aware of everybody who's listening, and also understanding that the balance that all the members on the council are having to be aware of. And they're also growing in this, and we're all growing in this. And I just encourage you too to understand that when we're looking at things from a leadership perspective, there's the leader, the needs of the stakeholder, and the system, and each one has a role, and each one has this symbiotic connection that they need each other. So just kind of be aware that as we're going through this, and that there's also politics out there that we have to be aware of. And there's also an ecosystem that's feeding a lot of things right now through our media, through everything that we're all having to process through. And that's why it just seems like things right now kind of chaotic. And hopefully as we put this plan together and start moving it, it can get us where we want to be. Next slide, please. And I think that was it for me, Crystal, and I'll turn it back over to Aaron.
Okay, thank you, Ray. So the next part on our agenda is an overview of the strategic plan that the City Council, your predecessors, approved last year. And so with that, Crystal, if you can take me to the next slide. Okay, so the purpose of a strategic plan. Well, it's a structured process that allows the city and the community to anticipate and plan for the future through long-term goals. This is where we kind of, as Ray mentioned, we're establishing the vision. Where are we going? Where do we put our energies and our resources? It serves as a tool for council and staff to guide and manage our budgets and prioritize our work programs for all departments. I can tell you that without the benefit of a solid strategic plan, in my role, we're faced with competing demands, competing interests, and all may have a certain level of importance in everything, and you want to be able to accomplish everything that everyone brings to you, but it's not very effective or efficient. And so the purpose of the strategic plan helps focus, and then everybody gets on the same page, and we all know where we're going in what direction. And so this particular plan does have a lot in it, as you will see momentarily. And so typically this size of a strategic plan does cover about 5 years. And it's that time that's needed to, quote unquote, move the needle and accomplish changes and desired outcomes that the council has directed us and that the community is looking for. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit of background of how we got here, and I will just interrupt myself for a quick second and say that I know for our new council members, this is a little bit of a unique situation. Typically at the beginning of the year, if you haven't had a chance to have goals and initiatives, this is when we start talking about, okay, well, let's brainstorm some of those things. Well, you've inherited a very fresh set of goals and initiatives that we're going to be evaluating and reviewing tonight, and allowing you the opportunity to kind of personalize it along the way, because you were not with us at the time that this effort started. So that's a big part of tonight. But we did start this effort last year, actually at the end of 2019, as a matter of fact. We contracted with the management strategies group to prepare the strategic plan, and we held multiple workshops on February 3rd and 4th of last year. At that time, based on all the data, all the prioritizing, this what we call a SWOT analysis, the City Council at the time identified a total of 4 goals and 8 strategic initiatives. A draft strategic plan was presented to the Council on March 10th. And then we, after incorporating some updates and revisions, we presented the final strategic plan to the council on May 26th, where they actually approved the plan. Now, since that time, what have we been doing? Well, as I'll show you in just a minute when we walk through the different goals and initiatives, those were kind of at the very high level, as we mentioned, the 30,000 foot level. What we needed next is to start building implementation strategies, the actual work plans. How do we achieve the initiatives that are there to achieve the overarching goal? So staff and I have been working diligently on those, and that's really what we're here to present tonight to the council for your consideration. This is where you have the opportunity to tell us if we've hit the mark on what you think the work plans will look like to achieve those initiatives and goals. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to identify each of the different goals, and under each goal, I'll share with you the initiatives that were approved, and then we'll move into the implementation strategies. I'll try to paraphrase as best as possible because there's a lot here, but the first goal, number 1, ensure public safety. That is to meet the needs and expectations of all residents and businesses and integrate health and public safety into the fabric of the Vacaville community. First initiative under there is manage the changing paradigm for the police department. The second one is manage call volumes in the fire and EMS services. Next slide. Okay, so this is the detail now. And these are the things that we're going to ask the council shortly to evaluate and then begin to prioritize. And these are things that will then turn into your staff's work programs. They're priorities for the upcoming year and beyond, and for our budget purposes. So I'll go through these real quick. Again, tonight is not the night that we're going to get into all the details associated with these strategies, all the contents. Any strategies that we have proposed for you tonight, if the council is agreeable to those and identifies those as immediate priorities, we will certainly begin work on those and bring back all the details and scope of works and proposals that the council will then have a chance, as well as the community, to have a chance to make sure that we're covering all the bases that everyone's looking for. So having said that, the first item that we have under Initiative 1A is to develop and implement a public safety strategic plan. Essentially, this is an evaluation of our police department, and in the interest of continuous improvement. We want to make sure that we're providing the best services and complying with the current industry best practices, as well as all the new legislation that's coming out at every moment, from the state and even at the federal level with regards to policing best practices. We also want to make sure that as we do that, that we're meeting the community expectations and complying with all the applicable rules and regulations. We want that strategy to utilize public safety and quality of life performance indicators, so we can measure ourselves, use the data to identify, analyze, and report new trends. Finally, we want to also, a very big part that we know is out there, is explore new programs, methods to address the increased demand for mental health, homeless, and substance abuse services. This is something that is sweeping across the country. We are aware of it. The city does a lot of great things in that area already that a lot of people may not be aware of, but we know that there's more that can be done, and we're looking forward to the opportunity to expand on that. The next one, so that is the first strategy. The second strategy on there is to prioritize community-based public safety practices and identify areas for extended outreach and program development. That's essentially meaning get back into the neighborhoods, connect, walk a beat type thing. The next one is, and I forgot my notes about CALIA. So it's pursue accreditation from the CALIA, which is the Commission for Local Law Enforcement National Program Certification, which promotes increased community advocacy and greater accountability within the agency. So those are the three strategies that we have for that one. Again, when we get to the prioritizing, that will be an opportunity for council to ask questions at a high level on those as we move forward. Next slide, please. Okay, Initiative 1B, manage call volume. This was a little bit more straightforward. And I should back up and tell the council and the community that's listening, we didn't just arbitrarily make these things up. If for those of you that were with us last year and in the council, we've provided you the original document that was approved back in March and then finalized in May of last year. There's a lot of data in there. There's the results of the SWOT analysis and all the inputs that were provided. We went through that very vigorously to come up and identify what were the priorities that were established there. And so based on what we saw in there and then finalizing the goals and the initiatives, we came up with these strategies. So it's not random. So for this one, the implementation strategy is just a singular one, and that's evaluate staffing models, facility demands in order to meet future public safety service delivery needs. What we're talking about there is increased calls for services as the city grows, expanding, possibly even moving fire stations to put us in a better situation to serve the demands of our growing community. And then finally, we need to evaluate potential impacts from future biotech and master plan development projects. As I'll share with you momentarily, we have a lot of new growth opportunities, especially with those biotech and master plan communities, that we need to make sure that we are providing the appropriate level services for those new development projects. Next slide, please. Okay, goal number 2, strengthen the local economy. What does that mean? We want our businesses that will grow locally through public-private partnerships, create local jobs growth to support livable wages, and a greater tax base to fund services for Vacaville stakeholders. The first initiative that was approved under that was articulate a current economic development program. And then the second one was to manage impacts from growth. Next slide. So as you can imagine, this is a big one for economic development growth. So the first implementation strategy is to implement our COVID-19 economic recovery and tourism strategies. These are two strategies that the City Council used CARES Act money at the end of last year and directed staff to help us navigate how to get through the pandemic and the potential recession resulting from that, and that affect us citywide as well as the tourism industry. Just for the record, for everyone listening, both of those strategies have been completed and will be presented to the City Council next week, Tuesday, for City Council review and approval. So that's the first strategy. The second strategy is to invest in proactive economic development strategies that capitalize on our city's strengths. So this goes back to additional strategies that we have started working on that we're continuing to push forward. And that includes our biotech and advanced manufacturing strategies. And in just a moment, I'll show you some of the potential fruits of those labors. Third strategy is to expand relationships with our existing partners to help promote local workforce readiness and meet local business needs. This was no more evident a need with getting through the pandemic. We have partnered with just about everybody that we could to help small businesses and businesses of all kind to get through this past year and going forward. But there you can see the partners that have stood side by side with us and that we continue to look to expand and build upon those relationships to do even bigger and better things. We're also interested, because we're trying to be proactive in this effort, to develop a citywide business incentive plan that fosters economic diversification. So that means infrastructure investments, incubator programs, and also growing local entrepreneurs. And then finally, to make it attractive to all those people who were asking to come in and invest, their hard-earned money, we need to make that process that, a more customer-friendly and a more efficient development approval process. So those are all the strategies that we have for that one. Next slide, please. And then here's something that I just want to share with you briefly. This is the fruits of the effort that Council's commitment to the biotech strategy. This is the one of several different conceptual renderings. So, it may not look exactly like this, but if you're familiar with that middle slide where this is along Highway 80 between Kaiser Hospital and the Father's House, 118 acres. We have been actively engaged with a developer who is looking to bring a world-class life science cluster in our community on that particular property. Those are just some examples of the types of facilities that will be associated with the proposal that will be coming in an application before the end of the fiscal year. So I just wanted to share that with you because this is good stuff for the community. It will provide great living wages for our community and really help the job force and getting back to those partnerships that we have with the community college. Just good stuff. Next slide, please. All right. Second initiative, 2B, manage impacts from growth. I'll be real quick on this one, but this is all the stuff that's necessary to make all that biotech strategy happen. This is where the city provides its services to attract those investments, those private investments out there. So the first strategy is to ensure that the city has up-to-date infrastructure master plans. We got to make sure that we have water, sewer, roads, and drainage for all of our new growth areas. Another key piece of infrastructure that we hadn't been working on until just last year is a new fiber optic master plan. And I'm happy to share with the council and the community that we were just notified yesterday that our grant request from the EDA was approved for funding to begin preparing that plan. And for those of you who are not familiar with the benefits of a fiber optic master plan, not only does that benefit local residents in the community, but that's where the big businesses really, when they come looking for places to locate their business, that's one of their first requests. Do we have fiber optics? Because that's, with the electronic age and the speed of business, that's critical for their success. Next implementation strategy, provide achievable funding mechanisms for development projects, including an update to our development impact fee. And then we're also looking at our community facilities districts and our landscape and lighting districts. These have been in place for a long time, and there might be some challenges with how they've been structured in terms of the date at which they've been approved. And so we want to make sure that those are up to speed and keeping up with the cost of business. Another important piece that goes beyond just new projects and everything, goes more so to the quality of life factors, and that's completing the city's Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We're excited to share that we will be presenting that to our Parks and Rec Commission in the next few months, followed by the Planning Commission, and then ultimately to the City Council once again before the end of the fiscal year, because we want to make sure that we have that available so that as we begin conversations about the budget, we can include the priorities from that master plan. Another thing that we're looking at doing is, another strategy is leveraging the use or sale of city-owned surplus land. We've done a year-long evaluation of every piece of property we own. There is a new state mandated process for how to disperse surplus land that we're preparing to go through. But there's opportunities out there, and if people are interested for different types of needs, we will be able to walk them through that exercise. Lastly, we want to create, again, part of the quality of life is really revitalizing our downtown. And I've always looked at downtowns as kind of the community amenity. It's really what makes people connect and feel connected to their community. It gives you that small town Vacaville feel, but yet, in a population of 100,000, how do you do that? Well, you have a vibrant and robust downtown. So we want to make sure that our aging infrastructure in downtown is up to speed, and we want to continue to invest in our downtown specific plan that will be completed during this calendar year. Next slide. Third goal, protect Vacaville's quality of life. The one initiative, promote and protect Vacaville's quality of life is viewed by a diverse population and their respective needs. The one initiative on there was promote housing for all. Well, as you can imagine, that leaves a lot open for interpretation. So here's what we came up with for some strategies. The first one is to develop a comprehensive housing strategy that promotes multiple forms of rental and homeownership opportunities, removes barriers in order to provide all types of housing for our community. The next one is to create new ways to generate additional affordable housing and preserve existing affordable housing. The final one is in partnership with public agencies, nonprofits, faith-based, and other key stakeholders. We want to develop and implement a comprehensive homelessness action plan that addresses those sleeping in outdoor spaces and provides supportive services and identify strategies for permanent housing. Now, I told you I wasn't going to get into, a lot of details on some of these things now, but that first one, housing strategy, covers a lot. And I've already heard, at several of our recent city council meetings that housing is super important. And of course it is, especially when you look at the biotech strategy that we have here. That particular project has the potential to bring upwards of 5,000 to 7,000 new jobs for our community. So where are we going to put them all? So next slide, please. So this is something that our staff is super excited about, honestly, because we're going to look at everything. We're not just going to look at, the pieces that we control. We're going to go out and we're going to talk to everybody, the builders, the financiers, and most importantly, the stakeholders that have concerns about the type of housing that we have here. And where are they going to live? Where are they going to raise their children? Where are their children going to come back from school and live? So real quickly, we're going to address at a minimum. What are the community's housing needs? Purchase, rental, attached, detached, senior, family, startups, and again, all that workforce. I mentioned the new biotech and all the jobs that will bring. We want to make sure that we have availability of appropriately zoned vacant land. You know, just because we identify a need, we need to make sure that we have the ability to provide that. Do we need new zoning or more of our existing zoning? We need to then begin to start talking about the potential barriers that exist to new housing, our fee structures, our infrastructure needs and costs, that infamous development approval process, including CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. We also need to talk to and figure out the availability of project financing for the city and developers. There's lots of mandates out there now coming out of the state that says build more housing, but we're not in the home building business for the most part. And so, there needs to be funding that goes with that. And then ultimately to the end user, what are the factors that are preventing them from getting into home ownership? Is there opportunities for down payment assistance or other income factors that we need to be aware of that are preventing those folks that are looking to get into a home the opportunity? We need to evaluate the existing housing supplies and the opportunity of units for new move-ups. And then evaluate opportunity sites for new or redevelopment housing sites. And as I mentioned at the beginning, engage all of our different stakeholders at all levels throughout the process. Next slide. I'm almost there. Hang in there. Goal number 4, maintain effective and efficient services. This is the one that, so far the first 3 goals are all about, the organization providing services for the community. These next 3 initiatives under this goal are all about the organizational's health. And so, as you see there, within the established fiscal constraints of the city, we provide effective and efficient services using outcomes and data as measures of the goal and the attainment of it. So this is where we make sure that we're being fiscally responsible and that we have a sustainable fiscal future ahead of us. That's the initiative 4A. Initiative 4B is rebuilding city support services, information technology, finance, human resources, risk management. These are all those things that help keep, the train on the tracks. And then finally, I think something that's ultra critical and important, especially as we've gone through this pandemic. I mean, I'm very grateful to the council when they included this right before the pandemic hit. Because I got to tell you, with everything that's been going on in the world this year, this particular subject is super important to me for the health and well-being of the organization. And that's build a positive culture in the workforce. Next slide, please. Okay, so under fiscal sustainability, the first strategy is to continue to enhance the city's financial positions, operations by identifying and implementing additional financial tools, as well as adopting policies and procedures that promote efficiencies and effectiveness. So what does that mean? That means just get better at what we're doing. But we also want to look at developing strategies to address existing landscape and lighting district structural deficiencies. It goes back to something I said earlier about, keeping up with the cost of, keeping our community looking clean and green, as we say. We also, at some point, need to look at conducting a water and sewer rate study to ensure that the enterprise funds have sufficient revenue to cover the cost of future capital and operating expenses. We also want to continue to expand upon best practices for budget transparency. I think last year was a good indicator of that, and just, we're just getting started in that regard. But as part of that, we want to bring back to the council the discussion about a long-range financial plan for Measure M. And so that everybody sees what we're doing, and we put that out there, and we put that that money that the community has voted to share with us to good use back into the community. We also want to continue to address long-term unfunded liabilities. That was a popular topic at the beginning. We will continue to address that. We also want to pursue new and alternative revenue sources. That goes back to some of the other things we talked about. And then finally, in the spirit of transparency and, communication, we want to be good stewards and educate residents and other stakeholders on the financial and tax-related concepts and the challenges that each of those bring that affect the city. We want you to be informed and educated about how we spend our money and your money. Next slide, please. Okay, rebuild city support services that I've already identified. This isn't going to mean a whole heck of a lot to folks, but I can tell you this is important. This is the, you know, the foundational piece that keeps the organization running along with all the other departments. But these departments don't get a lot of attention like some of the other ones do, but they're there and they're super important to our success. But we've been doing some work on that, on these things. And so we're fortunate that, you know, some of these things we just need to continue to pick up and implement. So we have been working very diligently on implementing a technology strategic plan and a GIS, Geographic Information Services Master Plan. All those things that you see related to maps and, you know, fire responses, emergency responses, those are all part of our GIS plans. And so we are making sure that we are up to industry standards and taking maximum use of those plans. We're also continuing the implementation of a city's new enterprise resource planning system. And we want to expand on that for contract management, which is just another effective and efficient way to use technology to help us be that much better. We're also interested in exploring smart cities technology initiatives to address key community needs and interests. You probably see that a lot in, you know, in all these technology books. How do we make, you know, the streets smarter, the lighting smarter, all those things? That's what that refers to. We want to go ahead and continue to build upon best practices for ongoing employee retention and recruitment efforts that retain and attract high performance employees. It's, you know, again, as your city manager, it's getting more and more challenging out there to recruit top talent. But I will tell you that, you know, since I've been in my current role, I've had some very good success with 3 excellent hires, and I'm thrilled that they're here and part of our team. We also want to implement an enterprise risk management system and develop and implement a records retention system that will make it much easier for the community to ask of any type of item that is been done by the city or by the city council, so that we can make that process more efficient as well. Next slide, please. Okay, last one before I add another one. Initiative 4C, build a positive organizational culture and workforce implementation strategy. Again, this is the one that, you know, is critical for me anyway. And that's to cultivate a progressive work culture that is responsive to customer service demands. Again, most people don't think of a city in the customer service business. We absolutely are. For those residents, businesses that are currently here, we are committed to your customer service and making your experiences top notch. But that's also how we're going to attract those other investments, is by, you know, investing in our customer service protocols and our expectations. We want to develop an innovation and efficiency plan that uses best practices. We want to explore best practices for integrated performance management and benchmarking into our work culture. And we want to promote a highly engaged workforce. The last item I threw on there is just, you know, because there is a lot here, we currently have 4 current core values, and you can see them there: accountable, inclusive, innovative, and responsive. We thoroughly believe in those, and, you know, those are at our core. But this could be an opportunity for our new council to suggest that we may want to expand or further define and refine the attributes that go with those core values. Next slide, please. Now here's a new twist. Under, you know, under my prerogative, hopefully, with the strategic plan, I'm making a suggestion here for the council's consideration tonight. And I think you already heard, you know, some of the audience speak to this. But as I, you know, meet with council, all of the council, there is definitely a need to reconnect. I mean, because clearly the one of the biggest hardships of the pandemic has been the isolation and disconnecting of people. And we're not wired that way. And so what do? And what I'm suggesting that we do is add another goal or an initiative under quality of life. But I think to emphasize the importance of this subject, my recommendation would be to keep it as a new goal that promotes community engagement and increased equity and inclusion. And we can call it, whatever you like, but the bottom line is that it's to get out there and engage with the community. And so the first strategy that I have on there is the creation and implementation of a comprehensive community engagement plan to enhance public dialogue and trust between the organization and the community. Secondly, develop a comprehensive communication plan that includes a multilingual component. Third, explore the use of neighborhood capacity building strategies. This is, for us planners, this is where we start saying, okay, I have, the paint, I have, the rollers, I need some volunteers. And this is where we go into the community and connect with our residents, our community leaders, and say, how do we build capacity in here? How do we help make improvements and expand what we have already? And then last but not least, we've been talking about it, and I'm looking forward to the expansion and the continuation of our efforts with our social justice and equity group. So that is the completion of the quick overview. There is a lot there, but that's what it's going to take, I believe, to achieve the goals and the strategic initiatives that the council has provided to us last year. Tonight's exercises are going to be identifying with Ray's assistance where you think is the most critical place that we should focus on immediately, because I do believe that all of these are important. And so we're going to begin to rank and prioritize and get your feedback, but at the same time, we also want to give you the opportunity to add, subtract, and personalize it, as I said at the onset. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ray and for our next steps.
And before we get there, though, we've heard a lot of information put out there. And there's another piece here I just wanted to remind. There was a mission in there, and it says our mission is to understand and balance our citizens' needs, desires, and resources to achieve the highest possible quality of life for the overall community. So I'm just kind of curious here, from a perspective from the your service to the council. I'm just kind of curious here. What is your why? This to the council members there. What is your why for serving on the council?
Ray, would you like to have them raise their hands, or should we just call on them?
Let's go ahead and call on them.
Okay, I'm going to start in backwards order. So if I could, I'm going to start with Councilmember Wiley.
All right, so the why of why I'm serving on City Council, as I said in my campaign, was to be the voice for South Vacaville. Now that we're in districts, I feel like after living here for 29 years, South Vacaville wasn't very well represented. And whenever a new development came into town, it seems like it was always in the south part of town, and there wasn't always a lot of follow-up. How were we affected after we got, these new houses and these new houses, or what was added to our community when we got more houses? And I saw a lot change between the plan of what Southtown was going to be and what it actually was a lot more houses without the amenities that it talked about. So I want to represent the people, and I think it's great that we're talking about having more public input. And I do feel like we need to be more together as a community rather than just here's this little development and this development and this development. So and I also want to be fiscally responsible, because I felt like, just looking at the whole spending situation and what our priorities were. So I didn't know we were going to speak, but that's what I would say were two of my reasons why.
Thank you, Member Wiley. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Wiley. Councilmember Roberts.
How's it going? Getting into my why. So service has been a big part of my life, between military, volunteer, nonprofits. And I'm always trying to find a way to help the most amount of people as I can, and stepping up into a larger role like this allows me to have a bigger impact on the community. I saw a lot of things going on in the city which I felt need to be addressed, and through various leadership aspects that I've held, bringing communication and hands-on work with the different needs of the city, like emergency preparedness, communication, and somebody that actually works in the community and being engaged with all these different demographics is something I thought was extremely important and that I can hopefully bring to the table. Goes back to the open communication with now districts and with the constituents in the district, as well as hopefully benefit the entire city.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Silva.
All right, so is this like a therapy session for me?
It's an opportunity, sir.
All right, thank you, bad joke. So my why truly is, how do I become a good father? And part of that is not just to serve my kids, but also to demonstrate how to create a better world. So rather than just being someone who, you know, complains and points fingers, how do I become a part of that solution? And just from my personal experiences and a lot of folks that I relate to, if I could summarize that, it's really to break the cycle of poverty by finding those win-wins. And that doesn't mean that we forget others, because part of breaking the cycle of poverty is finding ways to help support folks to be more sustainable, so that way we prevent folks from falling into poverty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Silva. Councilmember Stockton.
Great presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss my why. You know, I want to unify our community. I believe that we need to have strong public safety, a strong local economy to really protect that quality of life that Vacaville citizens deserve. And so I like the presentation. I like the stuff about inclusion and creating dialogue. I think those are needed right now. But the culture that you discussed also is in Vacaville, right? And so we want to foster not only a positive culture within the city as an organization, but in the community as well. And I think my why for that is because that's the example we want to set for our children. That's the way that we want to honor our seniors, is by, you know, stepping up to the plate and attacking these challenges together to improve that quality of life that we deserve and our citizens here in Vacaville deserve.
Thank you, Councilmember Stockton. Vice Mayor Sullivan.
I think my why, I like the mission piece, how it talks about the balance, you know, and so we, the highest possible quality of life for all residents. And I think over the last few decades, Vacaville has grown tremendously. We now have a population well over 100,000 people. We're no longer, you know, the little town that we once were. I think the unique character of Vacaville is that, you know, you grow up here, you raise your kids here, your kids leave Vacaville as quickly as they possibly can, and then they realize it's an amazing community and they come back. And that's the story that you hear over and over and over again about Vacaville families. And there's so many Vacaville families that are 4th generation, 5th generation, 6th generation. I think over the last 15 years, 20 years or so, we've sort of forgotten about that balance. And so we have a large chunk of our population that can no longer afford housing in Vacaville. We have a large chunk of our population that can't find a living wage job in Vacaville and have to commute for hours and hours on Highway 80. We have a large and diverse chunk of our population that feels like we're sort of culturally devoid, or we haven't been listening to them, or that to be honest, if you don't fit into the stereotypical mold, you leave Vacaville as quickly as you possibly can because you don't feel welcome. And so I think, or you're a senior and you have nowhere to downsize to. We're not building the senior housing that's needed for our seniors to stay here and age in place comfortably. So I think we've sort of let the housing market run away. We've sort of let the economy run away. And I think that we have to take Vacaville back for Vacaville. And that means building housing for Vacaville families and seniors they can afford, so that when they do grow up, they can stay here in town. We need to build living wage jobs that people can pay their families' income with. We need home ownership opportunities, not rentals. And we need to celebrate the very diverse culture that's here while honoring our past and honoring sort of the classic, small town Vacaville that we are, but also acknowledging we're no longer a small town. We're over 100,000 people. We are one of the largest, I don't know exactly where we stack up but we're in the top 100 size cities in California. And I think that we've gone through some growing pains and maybe not noticed those growing pains. And now we have to sort of figure out how to reconcile our past with kind of our current state and make sure everyone feels included, welcome, and that we build a future for our kids here that where they can be successful in this town as well.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And finally, Mayor Rolette.
Yes, thank you. And I do want to piggyback off Vice Mayor Sullivan. He mentioned something, and I think we all mention it during our campaigns. And as you go out into the public and you find out what the public wants, everybody says, this is a small town. This has a small town feel. I love Vacaville because it's unique, although we are over 100,000 people. And I attribute that all, and it's my number one goal. It will always be my number one goal, and that's our public safety. Our public safety keeps our citizens safe. It makes people feel good. If you look around at the cities in Solano County, Vacaville by far is number one. No one else wants to move to any other city in Solano County. Vacaville is the city that everybody wants to move to. If you look around all the police departments from the other city, most of them live here in Vacaville. And that's because of our safety record and because of our public safety. Our economic development is a huge deal for me. Watching people get on the freeway and drive into the Bay Area to get good career jobs is something that I want to see in Vacaville. And that's why I was so excited about the biomanufacturing. These could be great jobs coming here to Solano County and keeping people here in Solano County and in our hometown of Vacaville. Another huge thing for me, and this goes with the quality of life, is our parks. I think our parks are neglected. I think we need more sports fields for our kids, an outlet for our kids. And it's something that kind of gets put on the back burner because we're always trying to put out other fires and trying to constantly get our roads back up to speed. And I know we went through a huge recession and now we're going through COVID, but I really hate to see the parks be on the back burner because our kids are our future. And lastly, our seniors. I think actually, I do believe it was Vice Mayor Sullivan that mentioned our senior population. We have a great senior population in Vacaville. And I know we have a huge development that's coming out in the Leisure area that will help with that, but it's something that I want to key in on also. So, public safety, number one, economic development, and then our youths and our seniors, very, very key, quality of life. And then, pulling all that together and being financially responsible. So those are the things I want to see. And that's the reason why I ran for city council.
Thank you, Mayor. Ray, back to you.
I want to thank everyone for everyone listening. I want you to hear the reason I put that, I want you to hear the heart, head, and guts of your council. And if you noticed, all of them were servant leaders. And that's what it's going to take to move these initiatives forward. That's what's going to take as a city to make things happen. So I just want you to understand that it's going to be a collaborative partnership between you and this council and everyone else who works in the city to make things better. And in that, like I said, we're going to have some productive conflict and conversations. And we're going to, when we're talking about productive conflict, we're talking about having a conflict of ideologies, trying to do the right things for the right reasons, and not making it a personal attack on each other. And notice how they're having to do that, and they're modeling the way with heart, head, and guts. So as we start working through tonight, you're probably going to hear some conflict, but it's going to be productive conflict. And these leaders are going to show you how to model a way to have the conversations if we need to change, modify, adapt, to add things and they're going to show you and model the way for you. So I just want you to be aware of what you got. And it's just good sometime outside of the politics of things just to hear people's why. And when they say it on the fly like this, you can actually hear their heart and you can hear why they're really doing what they're doing. That's why I asked that question. Now, as we start moving forward, I know we put a lot of information out there. So I'm just wondering what the council also is before we move forward to the next piece. Just if you could, just from what you've heard that Aaron put forth so far, from a 30,000 foot view now, from a 30,000 feet view, what are you curious about? From a 30,000 feet view, what are you curious about?
Okay, so we'll start with Councilmember Wiley again.
I'm sorry, this is Councilman Silva. Can you repeat the focus?
Yes, from a 30,000 foot view, just what are you curious? You heard Aaron speak about a lot of things today, and he put that plan out there, and you've read the plan and you looked at it. So I'm just kind of curious, from a 30,000 foot view, what are you curious about from what you heard?
Aaron, I don't mind if you flip the order so that, or switch us around so Jeanette doesn't have to go first every time unless you're ready to go.
That's okay. That's okay. So I am curious because I'm a nuts and bolts person. I'm kind of curious about how it's all going to happen. You know, at 30,000 feet, I see these and I say, hey, you know, those are all great things. There's nothing on there that I would say, take that off. That's not important. I think they're all worthy goals. And if we could achieve all of those in 5 years, it would, you know, Vacaville would be a different place. So that's my first initiative. My first ideas are, how can we make this happen? And it's kind of like what you said, it's going to take everyone working together, city managers, city staff, council members, and all the people in Vacaville as well.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Stockton.
Again, I think it was a great presentation. Some of the notes that I talked about, or that you talked about, were strengthening our local economy and COVID-19 strategies. I think that's important. But the more that we talk about quality of life, the more we have to have a safe city. And so public safety and their relationship with the public is absolutely imperative for us to move forward with any of these plans and goals. So I don't have anything else right now. I liked talking about the Parks and Rec Master Plan coming up, the downtown specific plan. I know that would be really huge for our community. Getting these kids back on the parks would be outstanding as well, and having great parks to use. So I think all of that will lead to that quality of life that we're talking about, as well as affecting that positive organizational and community culture that we want.
Thank you. Councilmember Roberts.
Yeah, like Councilmember Wiley says, like, how is this all going to happen? Because when I look at the list of things, they're all things that definitely need to happen. But I saw the brief slide of prioritization, and it's like, to me, a lot of stuff like the cultural organizational culture and the stuff that Aaron presented on his new idea is a lot of that, I believe a lot of that stuff should be happening concurrently. And so I'm just curious that how this ranking affects implementation of these ideas.
Okay, we will get to that. Councilmember Silva.
I thank you. Just echo Councilmember Roberts' comments. And essentially, you know, when we have all these varying priorities, how do we balance that with tangible outcomes, both short-term and developing long-term support for that? Building the trust with the community and maintaining trust, you know, where it's needed is another key piece. And I think, you know, one big overlapping question is, you know, how communication, just that general term communication, fits into, in my opinion, every single one of these four plus the fifth communicated or suggested goal.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Sullivan.
I have a fair amount here. I think, I mean, mostly what I'm curious about is how do we align the staff, the general plan, code, and other items that were built over decades that maybe don't necessarily align with where we want to head? So how do we support staff in directional changes, or how do we change things that are codified like the general plan over 10, 15 years that maybe don't necessarily align with the vision the new council has? How do we kind of align all of those bits and pieces, I guess, is one of my big questions. I think the second thing that I'm very curious of, it's really easy for us to say like, hey, Aaron, I want everything you just talked about. That plan sounds great. We can easily just say the whole plan's awesome, check mark, let's go. I think the problem, the fact of the matter is that with our current budget situation, if we want to do anything new, we have to take from somewhere, or we have to increase our revenues. And so we can't have it all. And so we're going to have to figure out, if we have new priorities, where do we pull the funding, the resources, the staff, et cetera, from? And then we also can't burn our staff out by assigning it all to them. So I think we have to be very careful about, asking for things. But if we ask for things, we need to figure out what we're going to deprioritize. I think, how do we build one voice for council, I think is a big question for me right now. I think the first 2 years of my term, I don't feel like the council spoke with one voice, and I feel like it was kind of fractured at times. I don't necessarily want to do that anymore, and I'm hoping that we can kind of reconcile and get to know each other and let bygones be bygones, or whatever we need to do to move forward collectively together. I really feel like we need compromise, not of driving things through. And so I'm hoping that as a council, we can speak with one voice and kind of come out together, kind of moving forward. And I hope that that is infectious to the community. I hope the community sees that, and we can all move forward collectively together to really kind of bring the community back together. And then lastly, and Aaron, I don't mean this specifically just for you, but I kind of sort of do. I am a little nervous for you. There's 7 new council members. We all have a million ideas. How do we support you? How do we not burn you out? How do we not give you, you're our only employee. I know we can't each give you 25 things. We have to speak with one voice and make sure we support you, and support you in the execution of this plan, and support the staff through the execution of this plan too. So I think we need to be mindful of what we're asking of you and asking of staff, and make sure we're cognizant of those limitations as well.
Well, thank you, Vice Mayor. The good news is that I'm going to remind you that you actually have doubled the number of your staff, because you have 2 that directly report to you. So, all right. With that, Mayor.
So, you're asking the question, and I'm thinking that the council kind of missed this question, but you're asking from a 30,000 foot, drop in from 30,000 foot. I'm thinking that's what it says, from 30,000 feet up. How do we look at it? And of course, all these, some of these answers from some of the council members are going to be questions that I have too, but that's when you get close to it, and when we start diving down to it. But from 30,000 feet up, I think we all answered this question when you said why. It's because of public safety. That's very important to me. It's because of economic development. That's also very important. Our parks and our youth and our seniors, that's from 30,000 feet up. Unless I'm missing this question, that's what I see from 30,000 feet up. Yeah, when we dive in, where's the money? How are we going to implement this? We don't have the staff, So if maybe I'm missing this question, but from 30,000 feet up, I'm curious about it all. I want to know how my biomanufacturing is going to fit in. I want to know, how our traffic impacts and everything. I want to know everything from 30,000 feet up until we start diving down.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I thank you for that, and I thank everyone for giving me a little leeway here. And Mayor, I thank you for reattacking that question and coming back to it. And this is what I want all of you to be thinking about. We're here doing a strategic plan, so we're at a 30,000 foot view. So part of this is we're just really getting a vision of what we want, and we're creating this plan that's kind of going to get us there. So in this, I want you to be considering that we're doing a vision, and then you align it, then you can execute it. And also to consider here too, that as we start possibly looking at ranking these as critical focus, not so much as one more important than another, but it's more of this is where our critical focus needs to be. all these 8 items that you said, this is all important. It's all critical. And over the next 5 years, they will all be looked at. It's just that we're trying to say, okay, where do we want to put our energy in the next maybe 6 months to 18 months? And then as we get that done, as we start moving, making progress on that, we're still looking at the other pieces, but then we know, okay, those are going to be really focused on 18 months to 36 months out. Then as we move forward, the other larger other things that are still there that we still been working on, they're going to be a longer term focus of 36 to 5 years. And we're going to keep moving every year. You're going to be looking at it. And so in that, I'm just kind of reminding you from the position of your leadership, you're always going to have to be thinking about the 30,000 foot view of when you're showing up, because everything you're doing is moving you toward that vision. So if you don't have that thought process in your mind, you can easily sometimes get bogged down into the doing the work of every day, trying to get into the weeds of things, when you're not realizing that how you show up, how you act, what you say has to be moving the entire community toward that vision. So I just want you to be aware of that 30,000 foot view has always got to kind of be in your preview, and you may have to kind of go back to it and step back a little bit and say, okay, how is this impacting how I'm showing up, how I'm interacting, how I'm answering this question, helping us move toward that 30,000 foot perspective. That's what that question was about. All right. So now as we move forward, if you want to, we'll try to move forward as we go forward into our next slide.
Ray, can I jump in here real quick just to make sure, just so before the council jumps to the survey link, I have some instructions before you start, clicking and filling it out. So Ray, we're going to walk you through that, and then if you turn it over to me, Ray, I'll walk them through the instructions so we can record it.
Okay, so did you send out the links to them?
Yes.
Okay, so they can go ahead and start in those links, and just go ahead and rate it one. You'll see use the links to rate the priorities of the initiative. And what we mean by priority, which one should have our critical focus.
But so if I could here, and this was a last minute addition, so I apologize for the transition here. So what we've asked the council to do is help rank and prioritize what they feel is the most critical of these 8 strategic initiatives. Okay, so we've provided them with links, and the first link is going to just rank them, 1 through 8. 1 is most important, 8 is the least, lower on the list. Okay, not that it's not important, it's just that it's not the immediate priority. Now, I need to keep track of a scorecard here of how you've voted. And so to make sure that you remember your answers as you go through the survey, you're probably better able than I am to remember which numbers you assign to those initiatives. But what I'm going to suggest we do is that go ahead and open up the link, put your answers in, which again is ranking them 1 through 8. But before you click OK, do not click OK yet. And I'm going to call on each of you, and you're going to tell me what order you rank them in, so I can go ahead and record those results, so we can show anybody how you selected. Okay, but once you finish, once you've read off your results to me and I've recorded them, go ahead and click OK. Those results will tally automatically for Ray to go ahead and incorporate that into the data set that we're keeping track of. Okay, any questions? Okay, so if the council would please go ahead and open up that first link, and again, go ahead and start ranking them, but do not click OK on it because I will be calling on you. I'll give you a few minutes here. Maybe if you're done, you can use your, the little code and give me the thumbs up on the monitor. So just do the first link and then we'll move into the other links momentarily. Give you another minute here. Okay. I'm going to call out individual council members, and what you're going to do is you're going to tell me, number one is initiative whatever. Then you're going to tell me number two is initiative whatever. Okay? So I'm going to start in a random order. Councilmember Stockton.
Okay, I'm having some technical difficulties. Can you circle back to me? I'm doing this on an iPhone and it's moving all over the place for me, so I'm
okay.
Out of order.
All right.
Yes, I was going to say that's how Monkey Survey works on the iPhones. They jump all over the place the minute you put a number in.
Okay. Well, if that doesn't work, we can just do the recording, and I'll have to do math, which is dangerous at this time of night, but we'll give it a shot. Councilmember Silva, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so your number one item is what?
4A.
Okay.
Number 2, 2A. Number 3, 3A. Number 4, 4C. Number 5, 1A. Number 6, 2B. Number 7, 1B. Number 8, 4B.
Thank you. Okay. Vice Mayor Sullivan.
So I've got 3A is number 1. 2A is number 2. 2B is number 3. 4C is number 4. 4B is number 5. 1B is number 6. 4A is number 7. And 1A is number 8.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councilmember Wiley.
All right, 3A is 1, 2 is 4A, 3 is 2A, 4, 1B, 5, 1A, 6, 2B, 7, 4B, and 8, 4C.
All right. Councilmember Roberts.
All right, so a little bit of issues here as well. Try to read off as best as possible. Number 1 is 4C. Number 2 is 2B. Number 3 is 4A. Number 4 is 3A. Number 5 is 2A. Number 6 is 1B. Number 7 is 1A. And number 8 is 4B.
Thank you. Mayor Roulette.
Okay, you're gonna have to bear with me.
Would you like me to move on and come back?
Sure, go ahead.
Councilmember Stockton.
All right, this is difficult to do because there's some of them that are right all the same. So managing the paradigm for police, 1A, 2A, 4A, 1B, 3A.
Oh. After 1B was what?
3A.
And that's number 5, okay.
4B, 4C, and then 2B, I think is the last one.
4C. Did you say 4C and then 4B or vice versa?
I don't know. It's every time I touch this thing, it's moving around. So I apologize.
Okay.
Where's your question?
Did you have 4C before or after 4B?
4C before.
Okay. And your last one was 2B?
Believe so.
Thank you. Mayor, are you ready?
No.
If you like, you can just read them off to me, or
Yeah, just give me a second.
okay. For those of you that have completed, go ahead and click OK and submit your results, okay?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to submit the results, but I'm going to go through this when I get I got a pen and paper now, so I'm just writing it out.
Okay. We need to get the fiber optics out there.
Aaron, can you put up the list that I put up again? I just want to double check.
Crystal, I noticed you were doing that. Do you see that, Councilmember Stockton?
Yes, sir. Let me write it down.
Ray, while we're waiting, are the results showing up on your end?
Let me refurbish here.
Okay, are you ready, Aaron?
I am, sir.
I'm just going to read them straight in order.
Okay.
So 4A, 2A, 4C, 3A, 1A, 2B, 1B, 4B. And now I got to attempt to put it in my phone.
Thank you, sir.
See 4 responsive if that's what you're asking.
Yes, thank you. Crystal, can you go back to that other slide real quick, please? Okay, thank you.
No problem. I know that this remote stuff is challenging.
Okay, so once again, if you've completed your surveys, if you click OK, we'll tally the results. And then Ray, were we going to take a break after they complete that?
If you like, sure. I think it'd be a good time for a break, about a 5-minute break or so. And if we come back at what, 7:35, is that okay?
Sure, why don't we do that? And that will give those who are finishing up inputting. And for everyone's benefit, the objective now is that once we get the tallies, we will then take the 8 different initiatives in the ranked order and then begin addressing each one of those independently and begin prioritizing the different strategies that I went over for each initiative. So we get to do this 6 more times, 7 more times.
Thank you.
back. And thank you to everyone for your patience as we try to do something that is intended to be interactive and engaging virtually. It's tough. So thank you for your patience and your participation. Ray, do we have the order results?
Yes, we do. I've loaded the Dropbox and I'm letting Crystal know now.
Okay. Okay, so just as a reminder, Council, what we're going to be doing next is that based on the order that you've selected, we're going to be pulling those up. Ray will bring up the slides that show the different strategies, and then that's where we're going to ask you for your opportunity to add, subtract, modify, and rank.
Okay, just one sec here as I start rearranging your slides for you.
Crystal, as Ray is moving the slides around, do you have his summary slide, or can you tell me the order?
I don't see it yet, Aaron.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Course.
Okay, while we're waiting for the slides to be ordered, I did some quick math, which is, again, subject to change once we get the official results.
All righty.
You got it? Okay. I was just going to predict which order they came up in.
And if Crystal could give me the make me a co-host, we can make it. I can just show it up here.
All right, Ray, you should have capability.
Ready. If I can put this in. Alrighty. So just so you can see what was here. Hope everybody can see that.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. And that's what it came out. And if you want the number wise, you'll see that the number one that came out was actually 4A. 4A, then 2A, then 3A. And I'll show you the slide, what it looks like. We'll go back over those. So I'll be sharing my other slide with you in a minute. Stop sharing that, then I'll share something else with you. All righty. So here we go. So this was your priority list. Your first one, number one was your first, and what I'm going is just our critical focus and understanding everybody who's listening that all of these will be focused on, but as we go on, this is what our critical focus is will be in this particular priority. 4A, which was ensure fiscal sustainability. 2A, articulate a current economic development plan. 3A, promote housing for all. 4C, build a positive organizational structure and workforce. 2B, manage impact for growth. Then 1B, manage calls for fire. Then 1A, manage change paradigm for police. Let me make sure I got that right again, because I think that one's supposed to go up a little higher. So let me make sure here. Okay, 1A. Yeah, that was it. And then finally at the end there was 4B. And let's make sure I get that right again. Let me go back and look at that again to make sure I got this right. I don't want anybody to say I didn't get it right here. So the priority was, okay. First priority was actually 4A. Yes, it was 4A. Second priority was 3A. Fourth priority was 3C, then 2B. Then 1A, and then 4B. Did you get that, Crystal?
I didn't quite catch that, Ray. You cut out a little. Will you read that off again?
All right, one sec. I'll just show it again, okay? I think I'm showing it now. You should see it now.
I still see initiative 1A slide.
Okay, did that show it?
There we go. Oh, it was there and then it went away.
There it is. There you go.
Perfect.
There you go.
So 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 4A. Oh, I'm sorry. 4A,
Yes.
2A, 3A. Followed by 4C and then 2B.
Mm-hmm. And the numbers right there could help you if that's better. Numbers to your far right.
And then we've got 1A, 1B, and 4B, bringing up the rear.
4B, bringing up the rear. You got that correct.
Perfect.
All right, I'll let you go ahead and show your slide. You have it back, Crystal. And we'll start now with say discussion. Now each initiative has a priority. So what we'll do is Crystal's going to pop up that slide in the orders of where she rearranged them. Then you can go ahead and I think you have the links that they can send out, and then they can prioritize the bullet points within each one of those. Is that what you wanted, Aaron?
So were we going to, where were we going to allow them to add or modify?
Oh, we could do that right now. As if we pop up the slide presentation, back up with it in the new order. I think that's what Crystal's working on right now. And then we can have that conversation.
Okay. So, council, this is where we're going to pull up the order and the strategies. And if there's anything in particular that you want to modify, add, subtract. And I guess the other thing, Ray, was this where we were also going to do if there was other things that were not included in here that we were going to memorialize for them and
all open discussion, correct?
Okay. So just to be clear for the council's benefit, so this is where, you know, the questions came up, how we're going to get all this done, what else is out there. This is where, you know, we're going to walk through these strategies for each different initiative, tailor it a little bit. We'll do our best to keep up with you. And then if there's other things that you want, we'll record those and see how those fit in here or they do not. So as you can see, we have a big work program. So as you consider putting additional things on the list, just think about how those relate to all the other things that we have in front of you in terms of priorities. And so it's not to say to discourage you from, you know, sharing it, but let us know if it's something that is, you know, something you want to put on the list so people can see it, or is it something that you want to factor in more importantly than this other? And we'll do our best virtually to try to keep up with you. So with that, I guess we're going to move to strategic initiative 4A, which is ensure fiscal sustainability. It's just as soon as Crystal has that up, we can go ahead and get into that. And again, what I will ask each council member to do, there are a total of 5 strategies under that. Unfortunately, they're not numbered. And for purposes of your survey, they will be not numbered. And so you'll just have to tell me which ones you're ranking in order. And then before you click OK, and we calculate your results. But I guess maybe while we're waiting for Crystal to get the slide order, I'm just going to go around the room and ask council in random order, are there other things that you want to see us address? Now, one of the things that I was going to share with you later is that, as we mentioned, this is a living, breathing document. It is we are saying it's a 5-year strategy, but we are going to be coming back to the council with regular check-ins and essentially a report card of how we're progressing. We're also going to come back probably, you know, every 2 years and say, are these, you know, based on the progress we're making or not making, are these goals still the primary goals that you want to achieve? And so keep that in mind when you're thinking about adding something to the list. And so I will do my best to take notes, and I'm just going to go around the room and ask for your comments on, before we get into the specific initiatives, are there anything else that we missed that we should be addressing as part of this strategic plan? So with that, I'm actually going to start with our new council members, just because they were not involved with the original document. So with that, I'm going to start with Councilmember Silva.
Okay, so I think I was able to, some of the main points that I just, you know, kind of observed since being on council, and, you know, and my experiences and insight, you know, from before being on council, I think I was able to include that throughout the different strategic implementation strategies. But one thing just overall, and maybe this is an appropriate time to express this, is that, I think, all of us are really in a privileged state to really truly serve the public. I mean, we're all here as public servants. And one of the things that I think kind of gets, that's easy to kind of get lost in a lot of the things that, kind of go in and out in our day-to-day routines is the importance of not really losing sight of who we serve. And, not just, our friends, in certain, our own neighborhoods, now that we're through districts, not even just our own districts, but how do we truly stay connected? And with all our decisions that we make, how do we truly make sure that all of our decisions, all of the tone that we put out there, everything that we do, everything that inspires us, the whys, that it's truly community-centered or resident-centered. And so I'm not sure, so for me, my vision, so to speak, would be to see how we can actually truly embed in our meetings, in our our write-ups, in our summaries. How do we always make sure that we tie it back to how this actually helps our residents? And I think what'll maybe help with, my hopes is what that helps with is it just kind of humanizes the diverse community that we live in and that we're all part of. And so I guess just to kind of summarize what I'm saying is that I feel that just having verbiage or this tone that we're truly centered on the individual people, so everything we do is truly community centered or resident centered. I'm not sure the right proper verbiage for it, but that way we truly don't lose sight with all the a lot of things that are going on of what we're here for and the true impact that we all have the potential to make that would last for generations to come. That's all. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you for sharing, Councilmember Servant. And I guess I should have asked the council as I asked this question of you. I threw out the new goal proposal of community engagement, and I think what you're describing is something that we could clearly put under that category of our strategy. About connecting and so forth. And so, if you would agree, is that a goal that is something that you would like us to see? To include in our discussions?
I think for me personally, I think it's something that can be implemented everywhere. So for instance, when I worked in healthcare or the biotech industry, everything was patient centered. What was best for the patients? What's for the best for the patient? So here as public servants, what's best for the public? What's best for each individual? What's best for each resident in our community? So
understood. And so are you, I guess what I'm asking in a roundabout way is if you're supportive of that goal and we can include as part of that goal, how do we address, the action that you're describing?
I'm sorry. So I'm sorry. I think I missed the point.
Yes.
So you want to include that in the suggested fifth goal. Is that right?
Well, I'm suggesting that there might be an opportunity to include your comments under that goal. And so if you're supportive of that goal, we'll make note of that. That's all.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Because I just want to say that what we're saying is this is what's best for our, I think what you're saying is this is not what you're saying, but by this plan, that's what we're saying. This is what's best for our citizens, because remember what the mission was.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Wiley.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I had my hand up because I wanted to ask, what about the last goal that you proposed? Because we were just ranking, the 4 that were already there. And I thought your goal was one that did need to be added. I didn't write down exactly what it was, but the inclusive and working for everybody. So I thought that was good. And I don't know exactly how to incorporate it into these, but it needs to be in our minds when we are making these decisions. The other thing that many of us mentioned was parks and things like that for people to do. And I don't exactly see where parks would fit in this. So we need to make sure that parks are addressed, because that is certainly something that the community wants and is something that we need for everyone. So parks would be one. And then the other thing that's foremost right now is also climate and sustainability. We just approved that project, for the solar farm. But in the next 5 years, we need to be doing a lot more for sustainability and climate and those sorts of things. So those are the things that I would think somehow need to fit in with our priorities.
Thank you. Councilmember Roberts.
Yeah, there's a couple comments on this. One thing I'd like to see added in there under the category 1 is, like I touched on in my why, is emergency or disaster preparedness. Because we got lucky this last summer we were like a wind shift away from being added in there with Santa Rosa, Reading, and Paradise. Because all those are multi-billion-dollar damages and losses to the community, which would set back every other priority we have listed on this slide. It's be something that'd be a minimal cost by adding like emergency preparedness committee, which integrates all aspects of the community from school districts, fire, police, OES, nonprofits, faith-based organizations. And it's just something we can start doing that sitting around the table doesn't cost anything. And for the 4C, building a positive organizational culture in the workforce, that's something we can start doing right away. It should be done anyways. So I don't think it really rates among the same level of all the other categories that are on there. Same thing with the proposed one. That's something that I believe that's something that we can just start getting into and doesn't necessarily need to be included on this high level list of priorities.
So thank you, Councilmember Roberts. So what we were, and I appreciate the comments, what we're also looking for is if there, as you mentioned with disaster preparedness, if there's anything that's not missing on here, or excuse me, that is missing on here that you'd like to see added. And then as terms of prioritizing, immediate, midterm, long-term, those will be things that we'll be going through next.
Okay. Yeah, so along with that is like maybe adding a 1C on there is for emergency or disaster preparedness for the community. With the police and fire, a 1C would be preparedness.
Okay.
And then just to circle back to Councilmember Wiley, the parks was included in 2B, I believe, for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Yes, we can definitely make it work under there. Was there anything else, sir?
No, sir, that was it.
Okay. Councilmember Stockton.
Nothing to add that hasn't already been said.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Sullivan.
So I wanted to just second or just kind of highlight a couple of things some of the other council members said and then add a piece or two. I agree with Jeanette on the green energy piece. I think that's very important. Maybe we can incorporate that under the 2A goal. Kind of makes sense there. Green jobs, new businesses, new energy, new ideas. I really couldn't be more supportive of Councilmember Roberts' talk about emergency preparedness. I mean, it's just a matter of time before the next fire. We're one wind shift and a few fire crews away from total disaster. So whatever we can do to support our fire teams, fire management, natural disaster management, et cetera, especially for wildfires, I think we need to specifically call that out. Not really a goal to add, but just a kind of a request in terms of a way that we look at things. I really liked the concept of neighborhood equity. And what that means is really looking at the different neighborhoods throughout Vacaville in relation to their parks, their amenities, their utilities, their streetscapes and services. There's very clearly some better maintained areas in town. Over the years, some areas have fallen in disrepair and they've got fences falling down and potholed streets and old parks. And I think we need to look at kind of where in the city needs the love first. So really looking at things across the planning spectrum with a neighborhood equity lens, working on kind of those lowest common denominators first. I do think to some degree, Aaron, this is probably sort of in your new goal. I'd really like to work on our council dynamics and kind of working together as a team and kind of figuring ourselves out. The community right now is probably more fractured than it's ever been. So what role does the city play in that? And I think that feeds into that new goal. We constantly hear about engagement, transparency, citizen voice. So that's also in that new goal, whether it's, you name it, you name the issue, there's someone that wants to be more engaged and kind of connected to the city. So I think that makes sense there. And I really liked what Councilmember Silva was saying. In the health and human services world, there's a concept called health in all policies, where every policy you create, whether it's hiring the janitor firm or, remodeling a building, or it's implementing, vaccine policies, it's called health in all policies. So you have to factor, what does this policy do for the health of the community? And it's actually built into the actual every action item. And so you have to consider really with every decision you make, how does this impact the health of our community? I really think some sort of like residence in all policies discussion should be had. Where we're making decisions, whether it's a new water main or it's a new park or it's funding positions, how does this benefit Vacaville residents? What is the negative or positive impact there? And I think sometimes we get so caught up in the contracts and the checking the boxes and crossing T's and dotting I's, we forget at the end of the day, these policies will impact people, whether in a negative or a positive way. And I like the fact that we should be considering that first and foremost with all of our decisions. So I think that probably could fit in that last new goal you talked about. So nothing new, just a couple tweaks to some of the existing pieces.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And Mayor.
I'm okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for that. That wasn't too bad. So I think the majority that we have here are things that we can work within the framework of the goals and initiatives that we've shared with you, with the inclusion of the community engagement. With regards to the green energy and climate and sustainability, that one is a very large topic, and depending on which piece you decide the puzzle to look at, some of it can fit in within our existing initiatives and goals. Others will take a life on their own, but I will share with those listening that we do have, as part of our general plan, a green energy and climate sustainability action plan. And so what we can likely do for the council and community is at some point in time soon, bring you an update on where that is. And actually, if you recall, when we presented to you, it was a late hour, mind you, at our last city council meeting on the vehicle miles traveled and ECAS discussion that we presented last meeting. The ECAS is just that. So anyway, thank you for your input. Crystal, are we ready to go ahead and start with 4A?
I believe we are, Aaron. And what I did is I went ahead and I'm navigating away from the PowerPoint. I pulled the implementation strategies and numbered them. That way I can kind of record and we can refer to them by numbers if that works.
That makes our job a lot easier. Thank you. Ray, are you good with that?
Yes, and I'm just want to just check in, kind of see what the council right now. I heard a lot there, so I'm just kind of curious here with the council as you're hearing these conversations going. Possibly consider where you need to start focusing to kind of get a little bit more knowledge for yourself. I heard a lot of plans out there, so I'm just kind of curious if the council is pulling all the plans together to see how it all integrates together. Because you have this plan here, then I heard you had another plan for the initiative, I think was for green energy or something that's out there. You have all these other plans. So I just want you are you kind of stopping some time and being aware of how in this system you operate in, how everything affects everything else? Are we starting to make those connections? For you as a council?
Feel free to jump in. I won't call on you this one.
I mean, this is, Mayor, I think probably most of the council is so new that they probably don't know that most of these other plans exist. And even me being there for 2 years, I don't necessarily know. So I think we will need staff to help kind of point out and help align things a little better. because I think we're just not totally in the loop or in the know. So we might need staff's help kind of weaving that discussion over time.
And I just want to share with you, that was the point I was so that when we got to it in this conversation, when I showed you that first slide about the tri-lens model, about the leader interacting with the system and the stakeholder and all the environment. So now you're going to have to kind of expand your capacity, maybe working through your staff. Yeah, that one right there is understanding that there's other pieces of the system, and that system operates in such a way that every piece affects the other. Not only from a fiscal standpoint, but from a regulatory standpoint. So I just encourage that that's part of the learning curve, that as we hit this level you're in now, that's part of your learning curve. And so you don't know what you don't know. And that's why I keep using this word curious. I just encourage you to remain curious and start investigating those things that you possibly don't know. Because it'll be able to sustain at this kind of 30,000 foot level. You're going to have an idea out there how this whole system of Vacaville City government and the Vacaville City as an entity works.
Okay, well, I agree that there's a lot here, and we will go ahead and try to blend. And something that I've shared with the council is that we're going to be presenting multiple special study sessions on all these topics that that the council, especially the new council members, are unfamiliar with, and so that will help gain the understanding of how all these different pieces, and as you say, Ray, the different plans interrelate and complement each other. So I know it's we're getting late, so if it's okay with you, Ray, we'll go ahead and jump into the goals here and the strategies, and it sounds like that we don't need to make any modifications. And so again, what we're asking you to do is just take a look at, starting with 4A, where do you see the priorities? And don't get too stuck on these. If it doesn't, work, if one doesn't, really resonate over the other, fine. But we just want to make sure that we're addressing your responses on this. So Ray, should I just go ahead and poll the council as we do this?
Go right ahead. Now, I think you already have the links, and all the links just ready for them to enter whenever they're ready.
All right, so I'm going to start calling on council members, and we'll start with Vice Mayor Sullivan.
So my first priority is probably number 4. My second would be probably number 5. Number 3. Number 2, and number 1.
Okay, if you can enter those into the survey linked for 4A, that will tally those results. Okay, Councilmember Silva.
I'm still reading through them.
Okay, Councilmember Wiley.
I am also still reading through them because I just pulled it up when you said that. So.
Okay.
Just
so they're on your screen, but they're also on the survey, but they're also on the screen. If that works.
The screen's too small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Stockton, are you?
You got eagle eyes there.
Still reading.
Okay, who's read them and ready to contribute?
Okay, I've got mine.
Okay, Councilmember Wiley, go ahead.
Okay, number 1 is the long-term unfunded liabilities. Number 2 is the city's financial position and operation, implementing additional tools. 3 is new and alternative revenue sources. 4 is best practices for transparency. And 5 is educate residents on the financial and tax concepts. And then as soon as we tell you what it is, we can hit okay, or should we wait?
Go ahead and hit okay. Thank you. Okay, anybody else completed?
This is so I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead,
So,
Councilmember.
the first,
If it helps, you can
sorry.
look at the screen and just give
yeah,
us.
so I'll do, so number 1, number 5, number 2, number 3, number 4.
Okay, and then go ahead and enter that on your survey and click OK. Anybody else ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Mayor.
I'm going to try to help you out here. Number 4. Number 3. Number 2. Number 1. And whatever I've left. Number 5, thanks.
Thank you, sir. All right, Councilmember Stockton or Councilmember Roberts?
This is Councilmember Roberts. I'm ready to go.
Okay, go for it.
All right. First one is number 4, number 2, number 3, number 1, and then number 5.
Okay. Again, go ahead and enter your results on the survey. Councilmember Stockton, are you ready?
Yes, to verbally, not to submit it, but it is 4, 1, 3, 2, 5.
Fantastic. Okay. And we actually don't need to tally the results. What we will do is that we will, share that when we come back to the council with the summary document. Okay. So now we are on to 2A. We'll give you a chance to review those. So click on your survey for 2A once you've finished wrapping up the first one.
City Manager, this is Councilmember Stockton. I can't fill out the survey because the screen that you had with everything on it before is changed, I believe. Can you scroll it down just a little farther? I'll take a picture of it on my phone, and then that way I can look at that and you can move on. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Crystal. This is very helpful. And again, I appreciate everybody's patience on this. For those of you that have been through this process, this is usually where you're all gathered in a big room and there's 20 flip charts and lots of pins and lots of colored dots and everything. Obviously, you can't do that in this kind of setting. So
I think we had conference room AB. Every wall was like plastered with stickers and all kinds of stuff.
Yep. All right. So we have 5 strategies under this initiative. If anybody's ready, feel free to volunteer.
This is the Vice Mayor. I'm ready.
Okay.
1 is 1. 4 is 2. 2 is 3. 3 is 4. And 5 is 5.
Thank you. Anybody else ready?
I'm ready, Wiley. So I have 4, 2, 1, 5, and 3. Again, with the caveat that, they're all equally good, but this is how they could be ranked.
Yep. Understood.
Mayor's ready.
Okay, Mayor.
2, 1, 3, 5, 4.
3, 5, 4. Fantastic. Thank you. Anybody else?
Councilmember Roberts.
Go ahead, sir.
I have 1 is number 1, 2 for 2, Number 3 is 4. Number 4 is number 3, and 5 is 5.
Councilmember Stockton or Silva?
Councilmember Stockton, 2, 1, 3, 5, 4.
Okay, get your picture. Councilmember Silva?
3, 2, 5, 1, 4.
Fantastic. All right, moving along. All right, so this is the housing strategy. We only have 3 strategies here. If anybody's ready, let me know.
Vice Mayor, I'm ready.
Okay,
2, 1, 3.
all right, thank you.
Mayor's ready, 213.
Okay,
Stockton ready, 1, 2, 3.
Councilmember Roberts, 213.
This is Silva, 213.
And Wiley follows up with 213.
hey, thank you very much.
So it just takes a little bit of time to then to go back to the survey and enter the thing. So that's
Yes, we'll give you a second there to wait. You guys were too
Okay.
fast.
okay.
If I'm not mistaken, our next one is going to be 4C.
So this one is, what was this one? Rebuild housing, promote housing for all.
Councilmember Wiley, you unmuted.
Okay, is everybody ready? Move on to 4C. We have 5 strategies here. And once again, when you're ready, just go ahead and announce yourself and we'll record your scores.
Vice Mayor, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
4, 3, 2, 1, 5.
Okay, you can go ahead and enter those in the survey. That would be great.
We're on 4C.
Yes.
How come I only have 4 boxes?
I only have 4 options as well.
Because we added the core values. So
Oh, okay.
sorry about that.
This is Councilmember Roberts. 1, 2, 4, 3, 5.
Thank you. Go ahead and enter that on the electronic survey. Anybody else?
Stockton, 4, 2, 3, 1, 5.
Okay.
Wiley, 1, 4, 2, 3, 5. And then when I go to the survey, what's this number again?
We probably don't, oh, it's 4C. I'm sorry.
This is Silva, 2, 3, 4, 1, 5.
Thank you. And Mayor.
Roulette, 42315.
All right, we're getting close. Thank you. Has everybody had a chance to record your
No,
answer?
hold that screen there, please. We can move on.
Okay, thank you, sir. Item 2B. This is managing impacts from growth. We have 5 strategies.
Mrs. Silva? 1, 5, 3, 4, 2.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Wiley, 1, 2, 3, 5, 4.
Thank you.
This is Stockton. 1, 3, 2, 5, 4.
Thank you.
Councilmember Roberts. 1, 5, 3. Sorry. 1, 3, 2, 4.
Thank you.
Roulette. 1, 5, 3, 2, 4.
Thank you.
Sullivan, 2, 1, 3, 5, 4.
Nolan had to ruin.
All right, mark your results. Go ahead and get those logged in. We're almost through these. Got 3 more to get through, and there's only, not a lot there. So, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, this is Mike Silva. I don't see one beyond the email.
Because there's really only one
I'm looking at the wrong thing.
strategy.
Oh, got it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, so we're on initiative 1A. 3 strategies to choose from.
Roulette. I'll go with 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
This is Stockton. I'll go 1, 2, 3.
This is Sullivan. I'll go 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
This is Silva. I got 3, 1, 2.
Thank you.
And Wiley is 2, 1, 3.
Councilmember Roberts, 1, 2, 3.
All right, make sure you're recording your results, get those entered in. I'll give you a minute before we move on to the last 2 initiatives. Actually, we can skip over 1B. There's only one there. So we're down to our last one. All right, so if everybody's recorded the results on the last survey, this is the last survey, I believe, that we have. And then once we complete this, I'll turn it back over to Ray for your closing remarks, and then I'll wrap it up with our next steps. I know this is probably, a lot of foreign stuff because this is the inner workings of City Hall. And so quite a bit of this stuff is going to be undertaken anyway, just as a means to keep up with our management systems and our technology needs. So don't feel too bad if you don't have a complete understanding of everything that's up there.
This is Stockton.
Yes,
1,
sir.
4, 5, 6, 2, 3.
Thank you.
This is Roulette. 3, 2, 4, 1, 5, 6.
Thank you.
This is Wiley. 4, 1, 2, 5, 3, 6.
Okay, thank you.
Sullivan, 4, 1, 3, 2, 5, 6.
Thank you.
This is Silva. 2, 4, 1, 3, 5, 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Roberts, are you ready?
Oh, sorry, I was actually on mute. I was trying to talk right there. 4, 1, 3, 6, 2, 5.
All right. And again, please be certain to record your results on the electronic survey. That will give us the totals, so that will help us, score your rankings. Ray, I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
All right. Hey, I just had a few questions that I was kind of curious about here, and I'm just going to throw them out to the council to maybe consider these as we develop and as we start ending this. But I want you to consider what information would you need to have that allow you to have those crucial conversations with your constituents about the process tonight. What info would you need to have or have available to you to have those crucial conversations about the priorities and what we discussed tonight on this plan with your constituents? So that's something you might want to just think about. And I'm also going to throw another question out there to maybe consider here is, who could you converse with that is not in your political ideology, that does not share your political ideology, that could possibly give you an understanding about a different perspective. And I'm throwing that out there to you is because it's one thing if it's in Washington and people are not having these conversations. It's another thing in a local environment if we're closing ourselves off. And understand when I'm throwing understanding is we can always understand someone without having to agree with them. So remember, the question is just about think about who you could have a conversation with that is not in your political ideology, that could give you a different understanding or a different perspective about things. And that because part of this is what we're trying to do is I'm hearing there's a lot of communication in the community that's needed. So I just want you to probably to consider that, because it's going to require in this new season in leadership, when we're working with leaders, kind of get out of their comfort zone and maybe hear things that they don't want to hear, with the understanding is that they can understand and still not agree. We're just listening to understand. Then I'll just, another one I'm throwing out there to you is, I want you to consider, we did that why exercise. And I want you to consider, how could looking through the perspective of your and the others' why that you heard tonight allow you to better navigate through the crucial conversations on the council? How could looking through the perspectives of your and others' why allow you to better navigate through the crucial conversations with the others on this council? And then the final piece that I'm just kind of curious, as you went through this process tonight and you heard the things that were said and you would kind of delve a little bit into the plan, but from a 30,000-foot view, what resonated with and or challenged you today about the conversation we just had on this 30,000-foot prioritization of the strategic plan? What resonated with and or challenged you, if anybody would like to speak to that last question?
This is Councilmember Stockton. I think that it was challenging to just kind of make sense of of putting the numbers in order. I could see how maybe it's the COVID fatigue or something like that, but having a sheet of paper to write a number on with each one of these would have been a lot easier. But I do appreciate the detail that you went through to prioritize all these issues that are all very important to kind of help guide staff along the way. So that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I think this is Selvin. I appreciate you putting the questions up to read them. It is a lot of information, I think, to process through Zoom, and I definitely, it's a challenge going.
Did you just cut out?
Through this process, a challenge in a room with all this together paper. So it's a information for our constituents that we need is, explaining to them why this is important is a big piece. I think the second question there, I think what I found tonight listening to the other council members and the mayor is that we are more alike than we're different. And I think Vacaville is probably more alike than we're different. And I think it's not so much of finding someone who doesn't share, or maybe it is finding someone who doesn't share your political ideology, but it's finding that common ground. And what as a community and as a council and as 7 different people who represent 100,000 people can we agree on, and how do we move forward and kind of see from those different perspectives, I think. And so I'm gonna, I think that's kind of what really is hanging with me. And again, I second Roy's. It's a hard process to do on Zoom with 7 people and 50 people watching. It's tough. But I do think it was nice to hear the council members' perspectives tonight. And just wanted to thank staff and thank the folks that helped us facilitate tonight. Thanks.
This is, go ahead, Jace, go ahead.
Okay. One thing that resonated with me is I do a lot of this stuff in my regular work, a lot of prioritizations, strategic plans, and optimization for stuff. So it's really nice that the city's taken the time to do this so that all the council members can have a focus, a goal to work towards. It's like everybody said, it's a little bit of compromise. So some of the things like I wanted a higher priority on may not have gone may not have been number one, but it's still on the list. So if we go through and work towards the different goals, I know that goals that I want are still eventually going to get, we're still going to get to them. And yeah, it gives us a common goal to work towards now that they're prioritized. We have a focus and intent, and we can do, like I said, what's best for the most amount of people as possible.
This is Councilmember Wiley, and basically what resonated or challenged me is thinking that it's not looking just at these pieces, but how all these pieces fit within the general plan and the state regulations and the housing element and, you know, all the other parts that fit in with it. And you kind of mentioned that, you know, earlier on, but that is an important piece. And since several of us are newly elected, it's a piece that will take a lot of, you know, being familiar with all the other pieces. The other thing is part of these goals, you know, some are long-term and some are short-term. And so it was kind of hard to prioritize them with that. And I do like what you said about taking a periodic look back as we're going, so we see what progress we're making. We don't wait till it's 2026 and say, well, oh, that was our goal back in 2021. So the fact that it's a living document and look at. I do have a question about how the formulas were done, in that when we first did the first ranking, did each one have the same amount of value, or if they were ranked number one, were they worth 4 points? And if they were ranked number two, were they worth 3 points, or were they all equal? Because like I was kind of surprised that fiscal solvency came out as number one, because it didn't show up as very many people's number one. So how were those numbers calculated?
I have to get back to you on the specific analytics of it. But part of it is too, it's only 6 people.
Okay. I'm not arguing. I just wondered, because when I've done some surveys, you know, if I have people rank things, you know, a number one ranking is worth more points than a number 4 ranking. And that's what I just kind of was trying to get out. Was that the way it went and how it turned out that way? So
Yeah, that's the way it should be. But I just want to make sure before I answer you that I give you the exacts on the analytics of it. So I have to get back with the folks at Survey Monkey and see if I can get the exact analytics for you.
okay. And then the other thing that just kind of hit me is, you know, thinking about the other people's why. People come up with their why in unusual ways sometime. And if you find out that their why might have been kind of, if you can kind of work through their why, then they might come to a different perspective when they've heard your information. Or if you have a why in a particular way, you might come up with a different part of information after you've seen after you've really listened. So some people's why can be faulty, and it can change when you really listen. If that made sense or not.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This is Councilmember Silva. I think just something that resonated with me is just that all of these again are connected to our people, to our residents, and the importance that we have and challenge that we have with limited resources to meet the needs and demands of our public, and you know, and those truly everyone that we serve. But I'm also truly excited to serve with this council. You know, I'm really looking forward to the upcoming years, because you know, I think each of us brings a unique perspective and experience to making sure that everyone is represented in this community. So that's just something that resonated with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Unless there's anybody else, Ray, was there anything else that you needed, or do we need to move to next steps next?
I think we just go ahead and if everybody's good with this, we'll just go on with our next steps. And
okay. All right. Well, first first of all, I want to thank everyone. Our next steps, there was a lot of good work done here tonight. I know it was a bit, awkward to get through the virtual, involvement, but thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all this information and the electronic data that you have, helped us with. We will incorporate all that into an updated strategic plan and continue to develop action plans to implement each strategic initiative. But we're going to bring that back before we start working on those particulars. We're going to bring back a final version of the strategic plan with all the comments that were provided tonight. We'll bring that back to a future city council meeting for your review and approval. And of course, that will be another opportunity for members of the public to go ahead and evaluate the document and give their contributions at that time. One of the important things that we're going to do, and kind of addressing Councilmember Silva's and Vice Mayor Sullivan's comments about, connecting with our residents, we will continue to keep the council and the community updated on our progress for each piece of the implementation plan. We will report on the progress of the strategies at least 3 times a year in conjunction with our budget updates during the year at those particular times. The other thing that I think that we will do is kind of give you a scorecard of how we're doing with each of these initiatives and strategies. And then last but not least, for every staff report that we do going forward, we will identify which strategic goal and initiative that particular item that's on the council for consideration is implementing. So that way we can personalize it, we can show the community and the council that we are investing in our goals and initiatives and strategies, and that we are making a commitment to that through the actions that we're asking council to take each and every council meeting. So with that, I appreciate all your effort, your investment. This was very valuable for city staff. I know it was work. Thank you to those members of the audience that joined us and shared your time with us. We will look forward to bringing this back and taking yet again another new step and making this strategic plan work. And with that, I will say thank you. Mayor, would you like to close us for the agenda for the evening?
Absolutely. And I just want to thank the city council for bearing with us through this. Obviously, it was a challenge, but I appreciate all the input. It's great to be working all together, and I look forward to good things coming up. And thank you, Aaron, for putting this together. I do appreciate it. I know it was lots of work on your part, and I appreciate working with you to get this thing done. So with that, I'm going to close it. Thank you. Good night, Vacaville.